I think over there, cat.
Which one? Do you need help? It's pretty deep if you get in. So I fell in earlier and Yalger had to rescue me. There's no footage of this. I'll just keep filming this man because it's quite funny.
Hi.
Oh my god. There is so much snow. So much snow. We have to actually wear snowshoes or we can't walk here.
That was totally intentional.
Demonstrating the snowshoes.
I'm just blazing some trail here. Hi everyone, it is Tuesday night, 6 p.m. We finally got here. It's the first time in 3 months. Things have changed considerably here. We didn't get the car up the driveway. We'll have to do that tomorrow by digging out some snow. Our mudroom, as you can see here, is no more. So we have some digging work to do tomorrow. I was able to light the heating in the camper. We have blazed a quick snowshoe trail from the car at the base of our property up to our camper, and we're just going to grab the bare necessities out of the car, get settled in, and make things livable a bit. And then tomorrow we'll regroup, get started on digging ourselves out, and continuing where we left things off. Here's a look at how everything looks right now. We've got our camper full of snow. We could just squeeze in through that little opening thanks to the tarp. And there was our little shelter for when it was raining and we had a fire. The remaining of our insulation crashed from the big pile down. And there is the outhouse in the cabin. And our truck, Betsy. Hello, dear. So this is where our building materials are currently buried.
there should be a door under here somewhere and a stack of wood. So we'll start clearing that.
So what are you gonna do, Tanya?
Trying to get to the insulation, clear it off a bit, make sure that we can. Oh, this is deep. Make sure that we can drag it out of here after. Getting there. Oh my god, dump this.
Last time when we were here, we had a giant bale of insulation delivered for the roof of our cabin. We didn't have the time or the manpower to get all of the insulation inside, so we just left it here. And of course it got snowed in, so task of the day for us is get a few bales in, and if we get tired of it, we'll just do the rest tomorrow. We managed to get all of the insulation bales into the cabin. As you can see, we noticed that the hardware delivery store has given us a few bales of the wrong size, but it's fine because we can use them for the walls. And we have enough insulation because we had so many delivered for the roof. So, good day. Yay. It's getting pretty cold outside again once the sun has set, but nothing can stop us from having a good home-cooked dinner. So that's what we do in our outside kitchen. Good morning. Tanya and I are ready to go back at it. Today our plan is to dig out some more building materials which were buried in the snow. It's going to be piled right here behind us, and you'll see how far we get. everyone, welcome to the upstairs of our cabin. This is our glorious roof. Today and in the coming days we'll be working on insulating the roof so that we can get our stove fired up. And we'll do that by first using these 1x2 strips as spacers lengthwise in the bay. And against that we'll install rigid insulation, rock wool, and another layer of rigid insulation on the inside that doubles as a vapor barrier.
It's an insulation sandwich.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I also drill a hole now, I guess.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
We're Yelger and Tanya, as you know by now, and you're looking at our channel called Cariboo Adventure, where you can see how we're building a cabin on our tiny piece of off-grid raw land we bought a few years ago. And since posting all the videos on the framing phase of our cabin, we have gained a ton of new subscribers, and we want to thank you for that. So welcome to the channel, and thank you so much for subscribing.
Thank you.
It's been an amazing experience to see how this has grown. And next, after thanking you, we want to answer some questions that we have received in the last few months. All right, so first question was from Mr. VA Rhythm, and he asks, I'm curious about your total budget for the building materials and what were some of the mistakes you have made?
So the budget, we kind of pay as we go along, and then we save up for bigger items. So right now we have absolutely no idea how much we've spent so far. It's a lot. We'll probably have a better idea after the summer, after we've done a lot of the finishing, because I'll imagine that will be a lot more. But and
we'll make a future episode where we go through all the details of the budget and give you a good idea of it. As for the mistakes we have made, so a few that come to mind are for the top floor, we nailed on the plywood on the walls before we raised them, so that we wouldn't have to put up scaffolding and complex constructions to put the plywood on safely. But what we noticed is when we were raising the walls, the plywood was holding the walls back from the edge, so we couldn't really pull the walls nice and snug onto our chalk lines, which was a bit of a challenge. And we made things work, but here and there there's say a 1/4 of an inch offset. And then next mistake we made was when we were framing or rather rolling the joists for our first floor. I started off with using 2x6 lumber because that's what the building code said is sufficient. And when we were putting down the joists, lumber prices were still soaring extremely high. And we decided to go with 2x6 because that's what the building code said. But then after I put down the first frame for the joists, I found out that 2x6 is actually pretty, what do you call it, wonky.
You can still have a squeaky floor.
Yeah, squeaky floor and the feeling of shakiness, which I definitely dislike. So I changed my mind and I wanted to redo the whole thing with 2x8 lumber. We had to tear out the whole floor and buy 2x8 lumber. Prices had luckily come down by that point. So the cost of doing 2x8 instead of 2x6 was pretty much the same. And things worked out great. The floors are rock solid now. But yeah, definitely think about that. Next, when I calculated the lumber for our cabin, I did not take into account the amount of lumber I would need to build all of the headers and the sills for our windows. And the reason was I had a ton of 2x6 lumber lying around from our joists, which we could not return. So I thought this is going to be sufficient. Turned out that we needed a lot more than that, and we had to do a separate lumber run in addition to the big pile of lumber that was delivered by the hardware store. And then finally,
yes, we underestimated how much water you need to live in a camper with 2 people.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of lugging of water happening.
a lot.
A lot.
Luckily we have good neighbors, we have friends around. In summer the provincial park is open where there's a public tap, so we're well supplied, but it's still a bit of a hassle.
Yes.
Alright, next question. Steve G posted, cool, I'm very curious on how you're insulating, plumbing the platform in terms of freezing, and where you're locating your well pump.
So the well pump, that we haven't figured that out yet. The location where we will have the well drilled, we've done that by inviting a dowser to our land. It's somewhere in a previous video.
Yep, I'll post a link.
Yeah, so we know where it's going to be drilled, but we're not exactly sure where the pump will be. And the insulation will also still figure that out.
Exactly.
to be determined.
And just checking here, as for the installation of the platform of our first floor, that was a bit of a thought process where we had to consult YouTube and the internet on what the best way is, because for now we don't have any skirting around our cabin, so wildlife can come and go as they please. And the problem with that is that regular bat insulation, say pink insulation, even rock wool is inviting to little rodents and even insects. So they burrow inside of it and ruin the insulation. So that was no option. We could have solved that by closing off the bottom with plywood, which in that phase again was extremely expensive, so that was not a feasible option. And then we decided on an idea that we found on YouTube. And that was to use bubble wrap, reflective bubble wrap. It's commonly sold under the name of Reflectix. And you put that under the plywood of your platform. But again, I wanted to eliminate any squeaks, so I wanted to put down subfloor adhesive. And that made it impossible to put down bubble wrap and adhesive. So we skipped the bubble wrap.
So we bought the bubble wrap, then returned the bubble wrap, and now we have no insulation, but at some point someone will crawl under there and probably foam everything up. But that'll also be a project for later. Later.
It's not urgent then. Just spray foam will do it.
Yeah.
Next question. Brendan Ford said, thanks for sharing. Very impressed that you guys did all of that yourselves. Did you draw your own plans, or did an engineer or architect provide guidance on building loads? Can you recommend books you used to learn how to do the framing? I've struggled to find decent reference books on building one's own house here in Europe. The plans, I drew all of the plans for our cabin myself. They were plans somewhat to scale, but not highly technical plans. They were pretty much a sketch so that I could, based on the knowledge I gained of the books and the internet, execute those plans in a safe way. Next, the building loads. I found all of the required building loads in the local building code of the province of BC. Now there's the building code of BC and the building code locally for the Cariboo region are all based on the cascade of building loads. It starts with the International Building Code, which contains all of those loads, and that is then trickled down into the National Building Code, which adopts the international one, makes some variation based on local requirements. Same happens with one step lower, the Provincial Building Code, State Building Code, and then you can go one step further to your local building code, which is usually based on local climate, frost heave depth, and all of that. So definitely check your local building codes, because they contain a ton of useful information when you're planning your own cabin.
Mm-hmm. You said the BC one is online, right?
The
From
BC
British
building code is online. Most places I've checked have online available building codes. Sometimes you need to pay, sometimes they're free. But the international one is definitely available for free if you're just looking for those numbers.
And we can share the ones that you used in the...
Absolutely, yeah.
We can share some links in the comments.
As for books, I pretty much consulted one book that I call my my absolute manual for construction, and that was just for the framing, not for the inside stuff. And it's called The Very Efficient Carpenter by Larry Haun. It's available on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. He explains in layman's terms how to do every single step of your framing. This was my very first build, and I was fine with it. As for Europe, I'm not sure. It of course depends on if you're building your house or your cabin with wood, like our structure, or with stone. I have no idea on how to build with stone. As far as I found online, wood framing is pretty universal because the measurements are based on structural loads. It only varies in if you're using imperial units or metric units. But yeah, check your local regulation, and if you're building with wood, definitely consult that book by Larry Haun. Next question. Alexei Vasilyev asked us, great job, you're great. Did you do the project yourself or did you buy the project?
We did it ourselves. Yay!
Yes, we did. Everything. It's been a crazy adventure. We had no construction experience at all. To be honest, say a little over a year ago, I didn't own a single power tool. And I had never built anything myself. Next question by Lily is, how tall will the pitch be on the roof? How tall are your second floor walls? How tall are your first floor walls? How long and wide is the house? And what is the square footage of the house? And the same was asked by Jay the Gelder, who asked, can you tell me how big this cabin will be? So the pitch of our roof is 6 and 12, which means for every 6 inches horizontal, for every 12 inches horizontal, you go up 6 inches horizontal. I chose that pitch because it's still good with a snow load, but it didn't require any crazy acrobatics to install the roof, so I could do it myself in a safe way.
So 6-inch vertical up, right?
Yes, so for every 12 horizontal, you go up 6 inch, which comes down to about 26 degrees of angle.
Oh, and we should mention that we've already noticed a big difference with the roof being metal. Because when we look at other local houses here, we see a big difference. The houses that have shingles on the roof have a way bigger snow load, whereas with the metal roofs, it melts off easier. And yeah, so we're very happy we went with metal.
Next, our first floor walls are 8 feet in height. Second floor walls are 4 feet pony walls, and we have decided on a cathedral or a vaulted ceiling so that we don't have any ceiling joists, and we make that entire floor usable for living. And it's great. The measurements of the cabin on the outside are 16 foot by 20 foot, and that gives us a total floor surface or a footprint of 320 square feet per floor, minus of course the stairwell, but that's negligible. And then the final question by Kevin Cersei, your framing experience shows, is this what you do for a living?
You're inflating his ego.
Maybe. No, it is my first build ever, other than the outhouse, which was pretty much my practicing project for the cabin. This is our very first project, but not last.
Okay, that was it for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of this video.
How do I get it out?
That's what she said.